We are here with Morgan Holzberger from Blackfoot Communications, and she is the marketing and communications coordinator over there, and we're really happy to have you here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So I guess to start, before we jump right into all the cool things that your team is doing over there at Blackfoot, can you just give us a little bit of background on how you became a digital marketer and what path led you to this point?
Yeah.
Did you always think, hey, I'm going to study digital marketing and, targeting is really interesting to me, or can you help walk our listeners through that?
Of course, yeah. So I'm a Montana native. I graduated here at the University of Montana with a degree in business and marketing. I think in school, I didn't really understand what I wanted to do. I knew I kind of enjoyed my marketing classes and it seemed interesting to me, but I didn't know what path I wanted to take with that. So I graduated in 2015. I was working at Stockman Bank at the time as a teller.
Okay.
And I started to get a little more interested on the marketing side of things, more of the event side of marketing. I was interested in that, tried to pursue it a little bit. There wasn't really a path for me. So I started to look around here locally in Missoula at any marketing opportunities. Kind of was thinking I was going to have to go to a bigger city to get a good marketing job. And then this job opened up at Blackfoot, and I applied and I got it. And I think it was kind of meant to be. It worked out the way it was supposed to, I guess. And
so the position was a marketing coordinator at Blackfoot, which for those who don't know, Blackfoot's a big deal.
Right. Yeah. I've heard great things about Blackfoot within the community here. We have amazing benefits. It's a pretty large company. I actually, how I started searching for places to work was I just searched the largest companies in Missoula. And, under like St. Pat's and Community, Blackfoot was up there, which I knew about Blackfoot, but I didn't know too much about Blackfoot. So it was great to dive in and research a little bit and look at their job openings.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that was a pretty competitive position that you were applying for. And it doesn't sound like you had 10 years of experience in marketing coordination. So
right.
Any idea how or why they decided Morgan will be a great fit for this position?
Yeah, they definitely took a chance on me.
Cool.
So I did an internship, as many college students do in college. So I interned for the athletic department for Grizzly Athletics and their marketing side of things. And so, I feel like that was a good thing to have on my resume. But I didn't have any real life experience, as they would say, know. And so I had like 3 or 4 rounds of interviews. So it was, I was so nervous.
That's intense.
And I remember it was just down to me and another gal. And I hadn't heard back. And Will, my boss now, gave me a call and just let me know, like, okay, we're going to have one last round of interviews.
The final countdown,
right? Yeah. And they took a chance on me. So I was super excited to get started. And I've learned so much on the job. So I really think it is important to get a degree and do internships and do all of that. But once you start your job, your learning just goes through the roof. I mean, you're not going to know everything when you start. I mean, it's crazy the amount of things I've learned in the 3 years really I've been at Blackfoot. Yeah.
I think the on the job, it happens so fast because you have to get it done.
Right. It's kind of like a sink or swim type of situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the business school. And I think business schools nationwide, when you take a marketing course, it's really interesting because you read things like case studies. And this is sort of broad stroke here, but you might pretend to be the chief marketing officer of Apple. And they're coming out with the iPhone 15. How do you take that to market? And it's a cool exercise, and it gets you thinking strategically and brainstorming. But is it preparing you for that first job where they say, we need to get 5,000 new emails on our email list?
Right.
And your budget is $500.
When you don't have, or you don't even have that audience, like Apple has, like you don't even have, or the recognition,
exactly.
So it's.
Right. So you're doing a lot of education.
Totally.
You're learning about, I would say marketing for a first time, entry-level position, it actually, you put yourself in the mind of a salesperson. Would you agree with that? That you have to understand the business from the standpoint of what are the value propositions here?
Right. Yeah. I mean, coming into a company, an industry really, where I really didn't know anything. There were so many, I remember my first month, 2 months, 3 months, sitting in on interviews and just acronyms
right.
of different things within the company. I didn't know anything about telecom, communications. I was in banking for years. And so that was a different level of education on top of the marketing.
So you learn the banking language, and now you're learning the telecommunications language,
right,
and the marketing jargon language.
Yep.
Wow. So what was one of the first things sort of dropped on your plate as the marketing coordination or as the marketing coordinator?
Yeah. So when I joined the team, my boss was fairly new. He was in 6 months. So it was a new dynamic, I think.
Was it a new position?
My position?
Yeah.
My position wasn't new.
Okay.
There was just people who had moved to, someone moved on to the product department.
Got it.
And so a spot opened up on the team. So it wasn't new. It was just new faces on the team, and some people had left. So a new dynamic. And I think my boss who hired me, Will, he had a lot of ideas what he wanted to do with the team and what he wanted to do at Blackfoot. And it was a lot of new things that, people hadn't thought about before and felt comfortable doing. There was a lot of new, to me, they were very exciting. And so one of the first things that I started out that was on my plate was email marketing. So Blackfoot didn't really have an email marketing program. They kind of started to get it off the ground, but when Will started, that was one of his main priorities that he wanted to accomplish. So that is where I stepped in, and I had no experience with email marketing. I don't remember going over it at all in any of my classes.
Email.
No. And I thought it would be a lot simpler than what it was, I think. But, just getting used to the tools, that was the hardest thing for me, is being in a new program in our CRM and then in our email marketing platform. That was just getting my feet wet in that.
What was the CRM that you guys are using?
We use Dynamics CRM.
And that has email marketing capabilities?
So we utilize Click Dimensions. It sits natively within the Dynamics. Yep.
Interesting. We talk a lot about Mailchimp on this podcast.
Right. And we're starting to get our feet wet a little bit in Mailchimp.
Going that direction?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
it seems like, having not used those tools that you just described, Mailchimp is simple, and sometimes keeping email simple is the way to go.
Right.
If you're not a Fortune 500 company, or if, Blackfoot might even fall into that category, like this large enterprise company, it might make sense to have many automations, which gets complicated fast, but is sometimes useful. So talk about email marketing when you're segmenting. And so one of the ways that email gets complicated quick is when you start segmenting. The path of least resistance is to say, I've got an email list of 50,000. They all want our weekly newsletter, which is very, very rarely the case. And so you have customers, you have business customers, you have residential customers. And for those that don't know, Blackfoot Communications is what? Can you just kind of give a quick...
Yeah, so we're a communications company. We're headquarters here in Missoula, but we service Montana, Idaho, and then parts of the Pacific Northwest. So we provide, on the business side, we provide data, cloud, IT services for businesses, and then we do have a residential side. So we provide internet and phone services there.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you've been with the company 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So that should give everyone a good sort of, all right, where is Morgan standing from a marketing standpoint?
Right.
3 years in. And so where are you at now with email? It sounds like that was one of the first things, and so has it?
Yeah. So since then, we're cultivating more of an email list versus we did have our customer base that have opted in to receive communications from us. But on top of that, now we are trying to grow our opt-in list. So we do have an opt-in page on our website, and we have 3 buckets that we segment our customers or potential customers, fans of Blackfoot. And so we have business, residential, and then corporate.
Okay.
And so that's today how we're segmenting those. But then we can also, in our dynamic, segment by product type if they're a customer, or geo, or anything like that. So
yeah, I would imagine geo is pretty powerful.
Geo and product type for upsell and cross-sell.
Cool. Yep. And let's talk tracking. So I know one of the big things for first-time marketers or business owners getting started is that old adage, okay, I know that 10% of my marketing is working. I just don't know which 10%. And so there goes 100% of your budget month after month after month. How does your team measure the success of your marketing?
I get really excited about tracking. So
cool.
I'm sorry if I nerd out really quick for a second.
Let's dive deep.
So, we use UTMs on all of our links. So we are
UTM codes.
Yep. So we're tracking, which campaign, source, medium, and then sometimes the content of that ad too. So we know what is performing. And so I'm always checking, different things like that just to see how it's performing, what medium's working the best. Do I need to throw some more dollars at different campaigns? And then pulling that up in our Google Analytics and looking at geos too. So
cool. So that sounds complicated for someone listening who's like, hey, I have 20 laundromats and I want to get into marketing, but I don't know what words you just said. So
I think
codes,
Google, and just setting up a Google Analytics account,
making sure that you know, okay, how many website visitors are visiting my site
right,
any day. And we sometimes say remove layers of uncertainty. And so if that means, if we ask the question, do you know how many website visitors come to your site every month? And we get a blank stare, we're going to help you figure that out. But that's the first layer of uncertainty before maybe we say, let's track the conversion rate of LinkedIn referral source. Right. Well, all right, let's figure out
let's
first.
Just figure out the simple analytics of your website.
Okay, 100 website visitors a month. What percentage are coming from your social channels? Oh, it's actually 50%. Like let's see if we can explore there. But I love what Blackfoot's doing because it's, you've removed so many of those layers that now you're thinking about how do we increase the performance of website visitors from this channel. And there's so much knowledge there. Do you find that sometimes there can be too much information that,
it's easy to get in the weeds.
You can remove layers of uncertainty all day, every day, and then at the end of the week, you're like, what did we accomplish?
What is this benefiting? Right. And I think a challenge that I've had is delivering the right information to different people within the company. So we like to report out on a lot of our campaigns, for I like to share with product, or if it was a business message, I like to share that with our sales manager, or certain things like that. And so what would be the most relevant information for me to give to them? Because I can show them, hey, this is how this ad performed and it came from this source, and I can get really in the weeds, and they're like, I just want to know how many deals were closed.
Right. How much money
and how much money, right? So it's finding that balance too, because as a marketing team, we love that. We love the data, we love the analytics, the testing, everything, but you have to know who your audience is too internally. So
and maybe internally reporting the numbers that they care about, but then as a marketing team, figuring out, okay, we know that they care about revenue, new residential subscribers, whatever that number might be, and maybe they've isolated it to 3 numbers, but then as a marketing team, your task is, this is our budget. How do we maximize that return on investment?
Right, and that's why we're the experts. I mean, that's what our job is. So yeah.
But it can sometimes be a thankless job because they say, oh, the numbers went up. I wonder what that was.
It's all behind the scenes.
And it's like, well, we know exactly where it came from.
Totally.
Yeah. Somebody just getting started who was in your shoes 3 years ago, what expectation did you, I guess, put on yourself to learn these platforms, and what sort of support did you get, and what would you recommend if someone starts and they're like, well, my company's not going to pay me to go to Seattle to go to a conference to learn this stuff, so I guess I'll never learn it. And what if that's what they're feeling?
Yeah, I guess for me, I had a different experience. Blackfoot really values personal growth and education. So I took a lot of online courses. I did a lot of, I did some Google Analytics trainings, and I have gone to a conference. I go to a conference once a year.
Nice.
This year I'm attending Advertising Week in New York in the
nice.
fall.
Cool.
So there's been those experiences that have kind of shaped me, but I think at first it was a lot to take in. And I was like, am I really learning anything? Because you can spend hours in those programs and learning all of the lingo, and it kind of felt like a lot. I felt, until I really ran one of my first projects or campaigns and I accomplished something, I think that is when I kind of felt like, okay, I'm getting a hang of this.
Right.
So it just takes a while. And at first you're going to kind of feel like you're not really gaining anything, but it
seems like there's a lot of resources online.
There's a ton of resources online.
Google Analytics certification.
And we're always, our team's culture is to always, we don't stop learning. We're always trying to learn more. And I think the marketing industry as a whole is I mean, there's always new information coming out. Like, it's just not staying the same always, you know? There's always new studies coming
constantly
out.
Changing.
New words, you know? So it's...
New features.
Totally.
All of it.
Yeah. And for me, that excites me. And I like having a job where it's not the same thing every day, or it's going to be the same thing a year from now. So if that, you know, you're in the right place if that's what interests you.